Here I see a crowd. Hello. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you this year, so I have created this video to present my paper, The Fall of the Fair, Digital Fiction for ICEA 2023. So I will start this presentation by giving an introduction to myself and also to the work that we do at my lab. I will move on to present the project, The Fall of the Fair. I will talk about the immersion techniques that we used for this interactive installation, and I will also talk about the challenges and how we approached. So my name is Doros Polydorou. I am an assistant professor at the Cyprus University of Technology. I am also the co-director of the Media Arts and Design Research Lab, and also an affiliate member of Science, the Center of Excellence, which is based in Nicosia, Cyprus. So, among the other things that we do at MATLAB, we deal with storytelling. We deal with storytelling in a very specific way. Our approach is to tell a story by creating experiences that they span across multiple mediums. They invite audience participation and audience agency, and they encourage spatial exploration, either physical or sometimes virtual. We create location-based experiences, narratives which unfold in a specific physical location over a fixed duration of time, usually with a pre and a post activity, which kind of ties all the narrative together. For this experience to be realized, we realized we need a new set of immersive mechanisms. These have been adapted by video games, immersive theater, escape room, and VR and AR experiences. In our experience, the last play, which was presented in 2021, we started the audience journey by inviting them to visit this interactive website. By navigating through the 3D scene, they discovered things like this letter, which kind of states that there's a theater which is closing down. And by going through the various objects, they identify some other key elements of the story that we want to tell. And then we invite them to book their slot through this website and invite them to come on a specific day to our venue, where by entering the space, they are faced with some items that they can explore to get a further understanding of the story that we want to tell. And also they discovered this diary, a handmade diary, which by going through it, they start to piece together the different elements of the story that we want to say. Furthermore, they get the opportunity to visit the theater through a virtual reality system which was placed in the physical space, and they had the opportunity to explore 3 different timelines, and they uncover pieces of the story. And by putting together everything that they learned through these 3 mediums, the website, the physical installation space, and the VR space, they made up their own understanding of the story. In our experience, Victor, again presented in 2021, this was an immersive theater performance. We invited the audience to come to this huge empty warehouse where they had to go through various stations and make different choices. And then they get to assemble essentially their own monster. This Victor was based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So it was all about the creation, their own creation. And at the end, they witnessed a personalized choreography from the monster they resurrected based on the choices that they made in the space. At the end, they received a card which explained their choices, and by going through a website, they could understand, they could decipher the dance that they witnessed. So these symbols are actually lab annotations, and through the choices they made, they composed their own choreography, and they decipher the characteristics and behaviors of the monster they witnessed. Also some selfless promotion. Victor will be presented at PQ. Victor X, which is the next iteration of our performance, will be presented at PQ Prague Continental in June this year. So if anybody is in Prague, you're more than welcome to come and witness the performance. Moving to the Fall of the Fair, this was a performance which Moving to the Fall of the Fair, this was a location-based experience which dealt with the theme of artificial intelligence, ethical considerations of artificial intelligence and simulated life, digital human replicants, what is the value of a copy, a clone, a digital clone of a person. And when we're dealing with this kind of technologies, are we creating technology that is meant to work for us, or are we creating technology that can work alongside us? So the experience begins by giving the audience members a comic book. This comic book serves as a way to discover the background story of our experience. So this was created actually through Midjourney, an online service, an AI online service that creates images. And we had a storybook artist that created all the images and then composed for us this comic book that you see. At the end of the comic book, we kind of set the scene for what it is to follow. So there is this project Refair, which is an AI system which is running a simulated world in order to conduct an experiment. Humanity has discovered in space a crystal that could serve as an energy source for humanity. So this AI system is supposed to test how well this crystal can serve as an energy source. And it populates the world by cloning digital clones of the scientists who made these discoveries. The problem is, 2 weeks after this experiment began, the AGI, the artificial intelligence system, has stopped responding, and there is no idea. Nobody knows what happens in the simulated world. So we invite the audience, which is a special team of experts, and they are asked to infiltrate Refair, so to visit the simulated world and try to understand what happened, uncover the secrets that happened in this space. So the Fall of Refair is a location-based storytelling experience for 3 to 5 people. As the audience member enters the space, they discover the location, which is made up to look like a science lab. They discover different parts of the city. They discovered like a translation of the alphabet we made up for this experience, and a lot of redacted information which they need to uncover slowly by going through the experience. Now, the story is actually experienced through 3 different interfaces. We have a VR headset, which initially is actually shut down, it doesn't work. So even if you pick it up, you're not going to see anything through it. There is a PC terminal, which is functioning in the very beginning as you enter the room. And there's also a tablet which serves as a diary. So the idea is for people to enter the space and go through these interfaces and progress the story. Initially, the audience needs to solve certain puzzles through the PC interface. And as soon as the puzzles are solved, then they get initially to rebuild the city of Refair. The city has been in an idle mode, and as soon as they complete the necessary steps, then the city has been built successfully, and then the VR headset begins. So now users can actually visit the VR space. It is an elaborate space. Not all areas have been unlocked from the beginning, so there's a limited path that the users can take initially. But there is a functional train system that can take you around the city. You by exploring, you get rewarded by discovering certain bits of the story. There are different elevations, for example, in this world. So you could find a teleporter that takes you up to this area, which are cells, which are floating around on top of the city. So it's basically a quite elaborate VR space that you get to travel. How do you progress the story? So there are environmental puzzles which they are spread across mediums. So for example, here is one. As you enter the train station, you discover that there is no electricity to power the train. And in order to go to another part of the city, you need to use the train. Now, on the console, which is the PC located outside the VR space, you can identify here that it says power up, and there is an encoded word. On the walls, we have the alphabet, which kind of translates the Rethians, which is the made-up language that we created for this experience. And you can type in the console the word, and that offers power to the train in the VR space. So the whole experience kind of encourages teamwork across the members who are using the three different interfaces. Now, the diary, as you pick it up initially, you're going to discover that there is only one page which is translated and you can read. The others are in Rothian, so you cannot read the diary initially in the beginning. This is because the story is slowly released to the audience members, and as you progress through the experience at different key points, more of the diary is being unlocked on the tablet. Now, what kind of immersion techniques did we use for this story? First thing that we realized is that we wanted the audience to be immersed in the VR space, but we didn't want them to be doubly situated. What I mean with that is, if we ask an audience member to go in a gallery space, let's say, which is a neutral space, like, for example, this picture that you see here, is just white walls and a VR headset, then the users know that they are in this gallery, and then they put on this VR headset that takes them to another world. What we did was we extended the story world, and the users are actually embodied into their role when they enter the physical room, the science lab. And when they enter the VR space, they still hold that same role. So the VR headset is now an interface to enter another space in the story world, instead of the interface that kind of constitutes the story world. This way, the technology becomes part of the story, and the immersive qualities of the VR world are contained to the expectations which are set by the manual in the story world. So you have the VR headset, and you know that this is going to take you to the simulated world. You're already in the story world, you're already in the science lab, and this is just another tool that is going to help you to progress the story. It is not the tool that takes you into the story. Also, moving on from there, we did use a lot of ludic immersion. So there were a lot of puzzles that the participants need to engage with. Now, we understand that when participants are engaging in one type of immersion, is very difficult for them to be engaged in another type of immersion. So in order to be fully immersed, by solving puzzles, they had to be solely engaged with the puzzles without any further distractions. Like you cannot narrate to them story while they're trying to solve a puzzle. The story is not going to, they cannot be concentrating on two things at the same time, or they cannot be exploring spaces while they're solving puzzles and trying to form a mental map of the space at the same time. So all puzzles that we constructed were meant to be collaborative. Like, for example, this one in the beginning, all of the team members, they had to gather around the PC console and solve this basic map puzzle. Or they were role specific. So each participant had to concentrate on a single piece of solving the puzzle. So we had one person in the VR space trying to find the correct spot to stand in the VR space to unlock the train. We had one person in charge of running the console in the physical space, and we had another person trying to decipher the word from the alphabet. Now, another thing that we realized is the way that we told the story. We used two different ways. One was environmental storytelling, which was a spatial immersion, and the other was through the diary, which was a literary immersion. Now, as the two forms of narrative information are of a different type, they also require a different form of attention in order to be properly digested. So, for example, the diary was offered in the form of a tablet. So it was either an iPad or an Android tablet, small. And in order for the person to actually read and understand the text, which was quite dense, they had to assume a role of deep attention. They could not be distracted. They could not be reading and at the same time solving puzzles. They could not be reading and at the same time directing people around the map. So what they had to do was to concentrate and read. So how we handled this is we created a small space in the physical space where they could comfortably sit down and read the tablet. The tablet was intentionally small, so it was meant to be only for one person. We didn't want many people on top trying to read all of them at the same time, because that would be, again, you wouldn't be able to enter that state of deep attention which is required. Now, in the VR space, the participants could explore the whole world, and they could identify all of these spots that were mentioned in the diary. They could go and see masses of work in progress documents of the scientists who were trying to build the capacitors to store the energy. They could visit the labs and see digital replicas of the crystals, and they could travel to the floating cells up in the sky and see the cells where the scientist was jailed. Now, all of those things revealed hints about the story as well. So, for example, in the jail cells, we see the writings of the scientist who is trying to understand why they locked him up in those cells. In the science centers, we could see the notes of the scientists which are trying to solve the energy crisis, and they could write down why nothing was going the way that they wanted it to go. Moving on to sound immersion, we actually created 5 different soundscapes for this experience. And for example, just to mention, this is the floating cells upstairs, and this is the city. If we wanted to, we use essentially the same soundscape in these 2 spaces, but we wanted to create this sense of being far away up in the cells. So we used a combination of processes which involved the reflections of the sounds and other various effects that create the illusion of elevation. Furthermore, we populated the world. When the participants enter the world has already been in idle state and reset, so there are no people going around the space. However, the world is populated by memories of people walking and interacting around the world. So you could see people fading in and fading out like holograms to kind of show that this world used to be full and alive. Now, challenges. One big challenge that we had was how to balance the experience. We had different types of people coming to see this. Some of them knew how to use VR. Some of them wanted to engage with everything. Some of them were more casual users where they just wanted to experience the story. So, for example, if we wanted to, I'm going back to the example of the train. If you wanted to power up the train, there was two ways to do this. Either by taking the translation chart that we had in the space, or by reading the diary, you could actually identify the word which was already mentioned in the diary. So if you didn't want to bother to translate this, if you only had to do is go through the diary and you're going to find the word and you can type it here and you could activate again the train and continue the story. The second challenge that we faced is how to show that these technologies are connected between each other. How could we show that the PC terminal, the tablet, and the VR space are all interconnected? And we used different prompts, like, for example, as the VR person was navigating from room to room, there was a minimap which was displayed in the console. So, for example, as you can see here, as the person is in the train station is highlighted blue. As the user is taking the train, for example, to travel to the labs turn blue. So we kind of show that there is a connected element to all of this. And also every time, for example, that there was that a new entry, a dialogue entry has been unlocked in the tablet, there was a prompt which came up on the console saying new diary entry has been unlocked. So people were notified to go back and check on the tablet in case they missed that information. So this is the team that created the experience. And as I am not there to answer any questions, I want to thank you from here. I'll be happy to answer any questions through email. So please reach out for any questions you might have, or any collaborations, or just to say hello. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and I will catch you another time. Bye-bye.